Okay, so do you think that the giant leadership structures from Pope to whatever they call normal people that come to church on Easter and Christmas,
Okay.
do you think that's been a net positive or a net negative?
In one sense, having a singular voice and have everything kind of structured and held together in one way seems positive.
Okay.
Because
seems or
it
is?
Seems.
Okay.
Because it keeps everyone kind of on the same page. And maybe that is the positive, because it keeps everyone on the same page, right? Like within the Catholic Church, it's more like, here's our theology. Here's our doctrine. Okay? This is what we believe. And it's pretty clear.
Would anyone in Catholic leadership or high up Methodist leadership or any of these denominations let me come and do a podcast like this with them?
Because it depended on the person.
Okay.
Yeah.
But would the leadership structure want them doing
allow
that?
it?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Okay.
Just because, and I don't know, that some would probably engage with it. Like, they don't mind arguing or debating and those kind of things.
Right.
The thing is, they can't control the narrative, though, of it, right? Like, they can't control everything that's going to be asked or said or stated by you.
Right.
And so I think that's where...
Because you've answered every question I've ever asked.
Well, I've tried to.
Yeah. But at least you've tried.
Yeah. And I've also allowed you to say it however you want to say it.
Right.
And use whatever language you want to use.
And you just sit there and hope for the best.
Honest to God, I do. And so I think in some ways I can see why the structure is appealing, but and that's probably one good thing, you got it all kind of there together. But the problem with it for me is that when things are so large and structured, even though you've got the archbishops and the cardinals and the, where it's getting smaller and smaller, I think the problem lies with when the local churches do not have local autonomy to be able to do things that are necessary for their local church. And so this was kind of the idea for the Baptists, for example. So Southern Baptists are locally autonomous churches. All right. In other words, they decide what their local church is going to do. Now, they adhere to a statement of beliefs that they all agree upon from the Southern Baptist Convention, but they're not held together by the fact of, oh, well, we're all just this one massive structure.
Okay. So, like, you go ask the priest if he can pray for you, and then he's got to send a letter to the Pope asking him if he can pray for you so that he can get the ring stamp, and then it's got to get back to you in 7 to 10 business days, and then you the priest, can pray for the person.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, it's not that bad.
Okay.
All right. But, so for example, though, if in some denominations, if you want to build, if you want to add on to your properties in any kind of significant ways, that has to kind of be run up the chain.
Mm-hmm.
In United Methodist churches, they don't get to choose their own pastors. Pastors are appointed to those churches.
Okay.
And I think that's
bad?
I think it can cause problems.
Okay.
Because there's just no way to be in touch with the needs. Like, so for example, I was on a call the other day with a district superintendent from United Methodist Church who oversees, or had been overseeing, almost up to 100 churches. There's just no way that, as good of a district superintendent as he may be, that he can have a pulse on the need of all those 100 churches.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you're trying to help those churches find the right pastor, but they're not even doing it at the district superintendent level. They're running up requests from those churches up higher to the cabinet and the bishop. and then they're ultimately making the decisions and sending it down.
Where do they get these pastors from?
Well, in the United Methodist Church, you go through school, you go through a United Methodist seminary.
Oh,
like
and then they just distribute
and
you.
then correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you go through the seminary, and while you're in the seminary, you're being
so some 25-year-old
trained.
shows up to preach to a bunch of 80-year-olds.
Yeah, man, it happens.
Wow,
it happens.
Okay,
or you'll have someone that has been in a very liturgical church,
mm-hmm.
all of a sudden show up to a church where they have no liturgy, no high church element.
I spend all day sitting with people in hospitals.
Right.
That's all I do down there.
Right.
I went to school for 11 years.
Yeah, I mean, and so, I mean, it can.
I don't think they've heard a word I said.
And so, that's part of the. Specifically within the United Methodist Church, that's the reality of it. Of churches are appointed pastors, and they may have like a request for someone or a certain type, but they're not guaranteed it. And so I think that's kind of the downfall with that is the fact, again, the churches are not locally autonomous.
Mm-hmm.
They're giving around 10% of everything that comes in back to the denomination.
Mm-hmm.
And for some churches, that's a lot of money. That 10% is a lot of money when they could be doing other things for their local church or for their community instead. Right. But now they're having to send 10% up the chain, up the line
mm-hmm.
to the denomination. And just to keep the denomination running. I mean, someone's got to pay for all these district superintendents, the district superintendent offices, the bishops, the bishop offices, their cabinets, someone has to pay for all that. So
are there people that just like that
like the organizational part? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So there's not just Catholics going to Catholic church because they like Catholicism better than the rest of it. There's got to be Catholics that like going to Catholic church because of this reason.
Yes.
Because of the leadership structure.
Absolutely.
And they feel more comfortable with it.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
And some of it too is like in your smaller churches, especially smaller non-denominational churches, your pastors may not be trained.
Right.
And some people value that.
Okay.
Or they don't want the church just to be alone. Right? They want the church to be connected with something larger.
Okay.
For accountability purposes, for relationship purposes, whatever it may be.
For more opportunities?
Yeah, for more opportunities to do things.
Okay.
And so there is, again, there's some things that are of value
mm-hmm.
in that. I just think there's ways to be connected with other churches in relationship and in accountability and in relationship that doesn't have to involve losing the local autonomy or local autonomous nature of the church.
Okay.